Hey everybody, it's Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and Scooterwest.com. I'm going to show you how to get rid of these ugly looking pods, or typically in the case now these Vespa LXs are 15 years and older in many cases, they may be just broken. And unfortunately you can't even get a replacement pod anymore. These have been discontinued by Piaggio, in a long time popular seller because they're fragile and they're little appendages that hang off the scooter. I'm going to show you how to get rid of these things and clean up the looks of your scooter. So pretty much going to put this running light kit, replace the standard running lights, and turns them into the proper turn signals like they are in the rest of the world. So let me get right to it. I'm going to show you the tools I need. It's pretty easy to do this job. You just need some specialized tools. So you're going to need two combination wrenches, an 8mm and a 17mm. I suggest having both a number 2 and a number 3 Phillips screwdriver, so kind of the medium size and the larger size. You'll need a 3mm Allen key for removing the turn signal pods, and a trim tool is always handy. All right, so first of all, we gotta remove the glove box, which is behind here, behind the leg shield of the scooter, and the front handlebar cover. So we'll start at the front of the scooter, take a pry tool, tool trim on the Scooterwest web store, and you wanna pry the Piaggio badge off. Pop that out of the way, get your Phillips screwdriver. And the steps are very similar on an S150. The main difference, there's another screw down below for the horn cover that's longer on the S150. So go ahead and lift that up and it pulls away from the bodywork. You're gonna find 2 screws located right behind that horn cover. So go ahead and remove those. Phillips screwdriver does the trick. And with the horn cover removed, you're able to easily access one screw that's in the center of the front handlebars, right below the headlight. Use your nail or go ahead and magnetize the screwdriver so you don't lose a screw. And pull that screw out. Keep track of all the hardware as you're taking off. It's all a little bit different. And the mirrors, loosen the lock nuts. Some of the scooters you'll find on, I think it's 2011 and later LX, the LX 150 IEs, they're gonna have a reverse thread on that left mirror, but this one's got standard right-hand threads for both sides of the mirror. And located right, pretty much just below the switches right here, you're gonna find 2 more screws. And these thread into the plastic, so they're gonna look a little coarse. The threads on them are a little coarse. Find 1, these are identical on both sides, and 2. So on each side of the handlebar covers, they kind of tab into the rear plastic. So I'm pulling out, I stuck my finger up into this where the lever goes, and you pull away and kind of lift. Eventually will disengage. And if you're having difficulty with it, you could get one of the trim tools in there to help get those plastics separated. So I went ahead and pushed the trim tool in there and it snaps a tab on both the right and the left sides. And once you get one side off, you're able to kind of shift it and then tip it up because there's one tab right in the middle right here. And you'll find various connections. Obviously these front turn signal pods that are found on the American scooters aren't going to get reused, so go ahead and disconnect those connectors. Go ahead and pull the headlight bulb connection, and there's one remaining connection for the running light. And you can either pull the running light out or just push the tab on the small running light. So let's look what's behind here. You have a nut on both the left and right side and a small, you need a 3mm Allen key. So go ahead and spin those off and you can take these pods right off. They do have some holes left behind. You can put tape over them. They're not going to hurt anything. You don't really see those holes. This scooter, of course, is in very, very nice condition. This has got 57 miles on it, so these pods are in good shape. If you have an LX that has 35,000 miles, like this one right next to me, they're in very poor shape, if not broken. The reason you'd want to get rid of these is just for both aesthetics, and you just can't get these parts anymore. A lot of the stuff is now becoming discontinued. That's specific for the LX and the American market one. All right, so put the key in the ignition, go ahead and push the key, and that's what opens your glove box. And that reveals 3 more fasteners, 3 screws in here. So sometimes these are pretty tight. You may want to use a number 3 screwdriver, which is technically the next size up Phillips screwdriver from what I'm using. So let's start up with this screw right here. And sometimes they're pretty tight, they've never been off. And you kind of got to get a little angle at it. Be careful with the glove box door. And at this point, go ahead and carefully with the door, go and pull it away. I'm starting from the bottom. And then it will just kind of pull away from the bodywork. So we'll set this aside for now. All right, so on the Scooterwest web store, make sure you have the part number MI200-LX, which is the complete light kit for the Vespa LX scooter. And it ranges from the years 2006 all the way up to about 2013, 2014, right before the Primavera and Sprint came out. If you have the LXV, you may need to do some splicing. Those have a completely different turn signal setup. But if you have the LX, the S150, S50, LX50, 150, the fuel injected ones, the LX 150IE, this kit will work for you. So if you have those pods right underneath the handlebars, you're set. So you have everything removed. Go ahead and locate the existing running lights. Go ahead and push this little metal tab right here and wiggle the connector off. And they're bayonet style bulb sockets, so they just take a little turn and they pull right out. All right, so go ahead, before you put the bulb in, locate this little notch that's located where the wire is, and it lines up with a notch that's on this black connector right here. And if it's correct, it will just make a nice little click and it's snapped in place. Go ahead and pop the socket in, and you may need to rotate it to kind of get the key in and stay tight. And at this point, we want to route the other bulb socket through the front, in front of all the wiring and cables, and route it right towards the right side here. And do the same thing, kind of rotate it where it's staying in place. I'm going to have 2 zip ties handy. You have this existing wiring right here that goes into the voltage regulator right there. Go ahead and zip tie the new wiring, and along with that extra connector that's not being used on your right side to that connection. And on your left side, you find this connection going to this the ignition CDI box, and you could tie the cable to that one as well. It keeps all the wiring away from anything that moves, which is that brake hose and the speedometer cable. And now you're just left with these 2 connections. So these 2 connections, you want to route them kind of right through where the main harness goes up into the handlebars. So it's these pair of wires. It's going to be a pink and a white wire with 2 connectors at the end. Kind of just route them up there, just make sure it stays out of the brake hose and that speedometer cable. Brake hose being that the big black hose that's kind of going right to the side. And you have the sheathing and all the stuff that goes up with it. And you could pull this all up with it, and you find the zip tie right here. If it's still present, go and route the wiring along with all the other wiring, and then go through this next zip tie as well. So you're just paralleling all the existing wiring of the scooter. You can push the sheathing up, and we'll move on to the front of the scooter, get this all connected. So you have the pair of connections. You have your left side that has a pink and a black wire. So locate the connector with the pink wire. And then the white wire, kind of want to route it to the right side. And that existing connection that went to the original pod turn signal, just go ahead and plug that right into this connector right here. So just like that. And before you button up all the bodywork, let's give it a test. So you can see the pair of running lights now comes on and they're in amber. And if you turn on left, you get left turn signal and the right turn signal. Just like the European scooters where the turn signal should be on this scooter. No more broken pods, and now it's all integrated with the frame of the scooter here. So if the orientation of the turn signals isn't working right, example, you turn the turn signal switch to the right and the left comes on, all you gotta do is reverse these connections. So you push the little tab, disconnect it, and then plug it into the other side and vice versa. But, all right, so we're gonna put the glove box on first. It's easier if you know where this little latch is for the glove box, and have the door open, no key in the ignition. So we have a rag on the floorboard just to keep the floorboard from scratching. There's the hook that needs to go behind the lock. So essentially I'm holding that little tab, that's the latch, and we'll kind of move up behind the lock and kind of eyeball the whole perimeter edge of the glove box. Get the rag out of the way, and once you get it all in place, we'll start putting the screws back in place here. So snap it all the way around, make sure it's all lined up all the way around. So good, just put one screw in place, and this is gonna be the center one right here. And go ahead and tighten it all the way down. And before you close the glove box, push the latch. Make sure it goes in and out and the latch opens. So the glove box is working. Now we can put all the rest of the screws back in place. So the step screws, the shoulder screws all go inside the glove box. And once you get these 2 or 3 screws installed, go ahead and move on to the front of the scooter. All right, go ahead and put the pair of screws that hold the upper section of the glove box in place. So I went ahead and removed the pods with an 8mm combination wrench and a 3mm Allen. And you could use the included plastic plugs to fill in the holes if you like. You could paint them with touch-up paint if you want them to match. So there's a small and a larger one to plug the holes here. And go ahead and repeat with the other side as well. And at this point, we put the handlebars back on. It's very nice because you have half as many connections to the front handlebar cover. You got the running light and you have the headlight. So go ahead and plug those in and kind of get it all lined up. And take care not to break those tabs. Go ahead and pull the handlebars out to the side and they'll snap into place on it, both the left and the right side. Just like that. Make sure the seam looks really good all the way on each side. Take the single screw, put your finger on it, and locate it right there. Thread that into that metal clip. Put the horn cover back in place. So it starts a little high and then it drops down. And go ahead and snap the badge in. So I'm snapping from the right side and then it snaps into the left there. And you have the last 2 screws that are on each side of the handlebars, right below the start switch and the horn switch. Put those back in place. Go ahead and install the mirrors. And ideally you just want to get them started and spin them all the way down. Get the head just about over the grip, ideally. So just over the grip, take a 17mm wrench, go ahead and tighten these lock nuts when the mirror head's in the right position. And there you have it. Make sure everything works. Got left and right turn signals, all integrated in the body. Never need to worry about those pods. Thanks for watching. It's Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and Scooterwest.com. If you're looking for anything for your Vespa, you know where to go. Scooterwest.com, we got you covered. I'll see you on the next one.